All right. Have a good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi the Mai Perek Zayin Halacha Vav Daf Ayin Gimel. We left off on Daf Ayin Beis Amid Beis, 3 lines before the bottom of the Amid Amar Harezu Truma. We are dedicating this class in the merit of all of the IDF soldiers and all of the Yidden that are living in the Holy Land, that they should succeed in completely Tidan Notzachen, all of our enemies, Amen, and they should be protected and healthy and well. So we began on Daf Ayin Beis Amid Beis to quote B'Shem Rav Huna, who presumably made a statement even according to Rav Meir. I needed to throw that one-liner in because that's the premise of our Gemara. And even according to Rav Meir, who says in Tamura that if a person says Harezu Tmuras Oila U Tmuras Shlamim, it only becomes Tmuras Oila. And as we based Rabbi Lazar's link to our Mishnah that is true, even if he made all of that statement. Nevertheless, says Rav Huna that Livchois, that if the person is saying that when I said Tmuras Oila, that's not what I had in mind. I meant Tmuras Shlamim. In other words, he's actually retracting, not saying he meant both. When he's retracting, he could retract. Wow. When does he argue with Rabbi Yossi? Lo hoisef. Lo hoisef means that even though he's saying he meant from the outset to do both, but essentially that means that when he said Tmuras Oila, he meant that. He meant Tmuras Oila. He wants it not only to be Tmuras Oila, also Tmuras Shlamim. That he can't do. Because if he meant the Tmuras Oila, those words took effect on the whole animal. He meant it. Even though he's saying he meant both, doesn't matter. Once he meant the words that he said, so there was his intent and his words, it took effect. And once it took effect, even though Rabbi Yossi argues and he says, come on, a person cannot say 2 words at the same time. He meant to do it together, too late, it took effect. That is what we had, the shame, Rav Huna. Now I want to go back to what we ended our share yesterday. And actually, it's not the Achronim, but it is the Ran in Bavli that shares this idea that by every kinyan, there are 2 parts to the kinyan. There is the Gemiras Das part of the kinyan, and then there's the Maisa HaKinyan of the kinyan. By Hegdish, the Maisa HaKinyan are the words. The Gemiras Das is the same. But we're going to use the same logic for everything. The reason why by certain areas in Halacha, Toichdei Dibur will not allow you to attract, like by Gittin and Kedushin, that's because when something is so serious, even before you seeing it happen, even before you utter the words, you never would have uttered the words unless you would have had full Gemiras Das. And let's apply the same logic to Kachin. You have full Gemiras Das. But that's the whole point, that if the person is saying, I meant to say Shlamim, that's a Chiddush, that Rav Meir says, okay, we get it. We accept that. But the moment he admits that I meant to say Oila, I wanted for Oila and Shlamim, those words make it go into effect. That is where we left off yesterday. The Gemara now is going to make a very interesting contrast. B'shitas Rav Huna's understanding of Rav Meir between Kachem and Truma, as we're going to read in a moment, which will be mamash fascinating, and all of that will lead us further to concretize that we're going to use the premise of general retraction is allowed Toichdei Dibur because we say that there wasn't full Gemiras Das until after the fact. By certain areas in Halacha, including Kachem, we say that there was Gemiras Das already pre-fact, but there is a little nuance to that. And we're going to make a chilek between Kachem and Truma, as we'll explain in a moment. That will be the first part of today's shir. The Mishnah, the Gemara and Daf Ayin Gimel will focus on the final case of Halacha Vav, the case that we kept on quoting at the end of yesterday's shir, that L'kula Alma, if a person says, Maisrei Seyim, Maisrei Kalkola Bachaverta, right, the 2 baskets, that they should both rectify one the other, it's effective. Karashem. Now, Karashem, now what do you need to do? Okay, when it is effective. Now, what we had extensively both, I think it was on Daf Ayin Aleph, right in the little Daf, and we had us on Daf Yud Beis in the beginning. We had the cheshbon, the difference between removing Trumas or Maisras from within. It's easy. Maisr is 10% from within. You have 100, you take 10. If you are rectifying this kalkala of 100 figs from without, we made the cheshbon, you have to take 11 point, we're going to say 11. 11.11 from without. I don't mind reviewing how we got there, but that's how we got. Based on that, we're going to have many new cheshbonos today. So it's going to be a mathematical day. Don't get nervous. It's going to be relatively an easy mathematical day. It's going to be based on the premise that when a person says, you don't have to remove A for B and B for A. You don't have to do it that way. You can physically remove it all from the same basket. Doesn't matter. But it matters, but it doesn't matter, as we'll say, and we're going to get the number for that. We're going to begin to focus only on the number of Ma'aser Rishon. So how much will you remove from Ma'aser Rishon? Right, Yakir? So if I have basket A and basket B, and my statement, because I said it all together, so I get to remove from A to B and B to A. I can actually remove it all from A. Let's say each basket has 100 and 100. If when I'm removing from A for B, Ma'aser Rishon is 11.1, not 10. So how much will it be for B and for itself if I'm going to be removing it all from the same? You're going to 22.22. No, it doesn't work that way. It's not that. We'll see the numbers. And then we're going to quote a Braisa that's going to give you the numbers of Ma'aser Rishon and Ma'aser Sheni. And we're going to come to a very unprepared conclusion, something that you would not think of. And it's going to be, even people that are not great in math will deeply appreciate today's daf. The cheshbonos are not difficult. It's certain premises that we right away misunderstand. We begin building on the wrong premise, and the Gemara corrects the Yisoid. And therefore, the cheshbon is different. The cheshbon itself is mamash easy. Okay. Having said all that, let's go. So says the Gemara. Again, this is at the last word of the third line on Daf Ayin Beis Amud Beis. We're accepting Rav Huna, which has a big chiddush, like we said, that even Rav Meir, who says Harezo Tumuras Oila and Utmuras Shlamim, so it's only Oila. That's only if he meant Lo Hoisim. That means if he meant both. We're believing what he meant. Since he meant both, but he said Tmuras Oila first, it so took effect of the whole animal that even Toichedei Dibur, you can't add the Shlamim, because when you add the Shlamim, you take half of the oil off. Can't do that. But if he says, I never meant oil, I meant Shlamim, he's retracting, not making it into nothing. He's saying, no, I didn't mean oil, I meant Shlamim. Even I've made his Maida that he's able to do it. Wowee. Okay. Huge. So we're saying, let's go with my Gemiras Das, that there isn't mamish Gemiras Das, because if you're going to argue that by Kachim, like by Gittin and Kedushin, where you cannot make a retraction, the reason is prior to you doing your deed, prior to you saying Hareyat Mikudeshesli, prior by Kachim to saying Harezu Tumuras Oila, you knew exactly what you're doing. He's saying, I didn't know exactly what I'm doing. I meant to say Shlamim, but the word Oila came out. Why do we allow him to do that? The answer for that will be understood in the next line. Says the Gemara that Amar Harezu Tumura, Harezu Truma. That's really the big difference. Harezu Truma. And right after he says Harezu Truma, he wants to make a retraction. He wants to say, no, it's not Truma. Then, according to Rav Meir, Afilu b'toichedei dibur eino chayzer. So what are we looking for? So what would that be, Simcha? In other words, here's the question. When a person makes a declaration, and in areas of halacha where people take it very serious, do we say that because of the seriousness, when the person made the statement, he was fully there, it's what he intended, there's a certain absoluteness there, and you can't retract? In other words, The only reason why in other areas you could retract is because you didn't really mean it when you said it. So if by Truma, even Rav Huna, B'Shem Rav Meir, that holds that the Lifchais you could, by Truma you cannot, because if a person says on his produce, this is Truma, we're talking about the 2%, you meant it, it's serious. You can't undo it. Why would Kachim be different? Now, not that Kachim is different, that you can always make a modification. No, Rav Meir is saying, Tmuras Oila, Tmuras Shlamim, you can't modify anymore. But a retraction you could make. If you say, I didn't mean Oila, I only meant Shlamim, we accept what you said. Why is that? If a person gets married, can they undo the marriage? They have to give a get. So it's a big action. When a person declares something is hegdish, can they undo it? Yes, they could. Just to know that the emes, both by kachim and by trumas umaisis, it's like a neder. We are learning this v'hashgacha pratis erev Rosh Hashanah. One of the things we do erev Rosh Hashanah itself is that we do ataras nadarim, and I want you to know that ataras nadarim is relatively very easy. Well, there's some. Do you need to have a Pesach? Do you have to have charata? I mean, it's not. Sometimes it can be easy. If I would have known, I wouldn't have done it. If I would have known something, I wouldn't have said it. If you stand in front of a basin of 3, you can retroactively undo the whole thing. You can be matir, you're neder. By the way, that goes to kachim. That goes to truma. You know that? But let me ask you something, Simcha. Were people matir hegdish? Small percent were. And an animal that was imbued with, I don't know, kedushas oila. If they go to a basin and they say, listen, guys, had I known X, Y, and Z, or maybe without even giving an excuse, simply saying, I have charata that I said it, they could undo it. Some people undid it. That is the reason why we are saying that there is room for a certain retraction, because to say that a person had full gemiras das, I'll argue they didn't. Because when I know that if I do something, it could be undone, I don't have to have full gemiras das when I do it, because I already have my exit plan, subconsciously. When a person says Hareizu Truma, can they undo it? The answer is technically yes. Truma can also, like any neder, like kachim, I can be matir the neder in front of a basin. Were people matir Truma? No. You know what the big difference is? I'll tell you the big difference. If I have a pile of produce, prior to Truma Gedoyla, what is it? Tevel. I'm not allowed to eat Tevel. I have to separate Truma. So if, let's say it's 100 figs, and I'm taking off 2%. I'm taking off two figs. What would happen if I would be matir neder of Truma? What would happen? Those 2 figs would no longer be Truma. I get it. But the whole pile is Tevel. I'll have to take off another 2 figs. So why would I do that? I could, but I didn't. So there's a certain absoluteness by Truma more than by Hegdish. Because by Hegdish, if I have an animal that's chulin, and I say I'm donating it as an oila, if I were to be matir neder, what would happen to that animal? It would be chulin again. I would be allowed to eat it. In other words, nothing is forcing me always by kachim. Tumura. Do I have to make a tumura? I'm actually not allowed to make a tumura. So since by kachim there's a certain percent of people that would be matir their kachim, it makes it into a declaration that's not so absolute. So even though Rav Meir holds that if he says tmuras oila, tmuras shlamim, if that is what he meant both. That means he's not retracting his oila. He's saying, I meant this and that. Sorry, if you meant the oila part, it took effect. Once it took effect, you can't add anything to it. But if you're saying, I never meant an oila, we allow you to say that. Because people can make, that's what it is. Because Adam Nishal al Hegdeshay. Adam Nishal means not only could a person make an annulment, like any Hataras Nadarim, some people actually did it. Which means that you can't say there was mamish gemiras das when you made a kachim declaration. No. When you do something and you know it could be undone, there's a certain part of you that's not fully there because it doesn't need to be fully there because you can escape. However, the Dafayin Gimel, the Ein Adam Nishal Al Trumasoi, the Ein Adam Nishal, as the top Marafulda says, not that you cannot be mateneded, you could be mateneded. He quotes from the Darim, Bavli, Dafnun Tes, that a person can be mateneded on Truma. It's so unshchiach, explains the Marafulda, because if you would be mateneded on your Truma, so okay, those 2 figs won't be Truma, but everything else becomes Tevel. You have to separate Truma. So since people didn't do it, even Livchois, but Toichadei Dibur will not be doable. Okay, L'chaim.
You're
saying but by Hektish.
But by Hegdish, it's easier. Some people did it, and therefore there's less absoluteness. No, it has to do all with Gemiras Das. The action is either a kinyan, the action is either a statement. If you were mamish 100% there, you can never undo it. Toichadei Dibur is because you only got there after you did it. Do we say that according to Rav Meir? Rav Huna says yes. And he only livchais, only Toichadei Dibur, but even according to that opinion, Rav Meir, not by Truma. Truma Maisris is even, there's a greater absoluteness by Truma Maisris. Okay. Says the Gemara, going back to the final case in the Mishnah. God willing, tomorrow we're going to start already Halacha Zayin. We're heading towards the end of the Masech. But at the end of Halacha Vav, when a person says one declaration that Maisres Seyim, Maisres Kalkola B'chaverto, which means that each of these baskets have the trumas in it for the other basket. It's one state, not this one is in this one and that one is in this one. The baskets have their trumois, one and the other. Oh, perfect. Then karashem. Premise number one. We're learning a brisa, and that's the whole thing. What you could do, Simcha, you can remove from A to B, and then from B to A. When we learned this stanza in the Mishnah, I'm happy the Gabbai corrected me because what I said was wrong. He made the right correction. When I said removing A, when you're rectifying A from B. Okay, let's go. I just want to be consistent with the mashal I was giving. So how much do you remove from B for A? So if you remember, we said it's not 10 because 10 only rectifies 90. So after you remove, so then you're going to say, okay, remove another one. No, the other one only rectifies 9. So 11 covers 99. You want to rectify all of the 100. So we had the Braisa, then we had the Shmuel. Let's go with it. I want to give a double fraction in the point. It's 11.11. Okay? That's what the Braisa. Now Shmuel said it's 11.1. We're going to go with the Braisa. 11.11. If you remove that from B, the basket A has its Meiser Rishon result. Do I have to now remove from A for B? When I said Meiser, say Meiser Skalkola B'Chavert, I don't have to do that. I could do that, but if I want, I can remove everything from basket B. When I removed 11.11 for basket Aleph, I removed it from base. Okay? I don't have to deal with my sedation for Aleph, but I have to deal with my sedation from base. How much do I need to rectify for base? Not 100 anymore. Because I took an 11.11. I only have to rectify now the 88 point. I have the numbers written down. I have to rectify. 88.9. It's a big difference. And when I'm doing that, if I'm removing it from B for B, now I'm removing it from within. Now I get to give, if I want to take 10% to rectify 88.9, how many figs do I have to take? If I don't
8.8.
Very good, thank you. In other words, Kevan, I only have to do the 11.11 if I'm rectifying it from without. When I'm rectifying it from within, if you're speaking about fractions, just one simple rule: take the point and move it over one. So if I am looking to rectify 88.90, so I have to take off 8.89. If I'm looking to rectify, I get 88.9, and from it, I take exactly 10%. I take off 8.89. How much is 11.11 plus 8.89? Exactly 20. So if in the case of the final Mishnah, where I'm going to be removing it all from the same basket.
You mean exactly 10?
Then the sum total.
No, exactly 20, Kevon.
Exactly 20. The beauty is that, now I have to remove for both. If for one basket it's 11.11, then the other one is 11.11. No.
Got it.
That even though removing from B to A, the first step will demand a larger number, but if I'm going to rectify both baskets, whatever I added for the first, exactly that number, I'm going to minus by the second, so it's going to end up what you normally do. So just like if I had two baskets and I was normal, I removed from A for A, from B for B. My solution would have been a total of, for the Levi, 20 figs. When I'm making this hafuch al hafuch, I'm going to end up with 20 also. That's the first thing that Braisa wants to let you know. Kate, what do you need to do? Sagt the Braisa, noitel esim te'enim. At the end, don't think 22.22. No, I know that it's 11.11. But now that you're rectifying both baskets, that's the key. Because once you remove from one basket the 11.11, that basket only needs the 88.90 to be rectified. That's the beauty. So now, take from any basket 20, and that's it. V'chol asar disav is behind trumas meiser. Now, what do you do with trumas meiser? Don't make yourself crazy to say, from the 11.11, again, what will be trumas meiser? You move the point down another one. Don't make those cheshbonos. It's simple. If you have a sum total of 20 figs that are meiser edition, so what's trumas meiser? 2 figs. So this whole fractions, which are difficult in reality, like how do I remove the fraction of the fig? I don't know how to do that. You don't have to worry about it because it got rounded off. And now the Gemara wants to tell you like this. This is the way we're learning that the Gemara makes an interruption. And the Gemara just wants to point out that the numbers that we gave, obviously, if we're talking about a sum total of 20, that means we're rectifying a sum total of 200 figs, which are divided 100 and 100. So that's only if it's that way. At kedoin b'shavis. What we said is only true if you had 2 baskets and each basket had the same amount of figs. And in our example of the Braisa, each one had 100 figs. What happens if you have an uneven number? What the Gemara will point out is that the moment you are removing from one basket, some of it for without, the remaining for what remained within, it's always going to end up with a simple number. So, for example, if you have a sum total of 300 figs, what's my addition of 300 figs? If you were to remove it from within, 30 figs. But let's go, that the 300 figs are divided in 2 baskets. One basket has bezumeya, one basket has 100, the other basket has 200. So don't get nervous. Same thing. Don't think that the first cheshbon, I'll give you the numbers in a second. So im l'shem meya hunoito, the example the Gemara is giving is that you are removing it from the 200 basket, but the first thing you are doing from the 200 baskets is going to be easy. You're removing first for the 100 basket. We already established. If I want to be misakin from without 100, I don't give 10, I give 11.11. Okay? Now, let's make the same cheshbon. If I'm removing it from a 200 basket, So if I remove from a 200 fig basket 11.1111, how many figs do I have left in it that's unrectified? 188.90. Very good. 188.90. What's 10% of that? Just move the dot over one. 18.89. Okay, 18.89 plus 11.11 is how much? 30. No, it's geschmack. It works. That so achad esrei. By the way, achad esrei doesn't mean 11. Just for the record, achad esrei means 11.11. The Gemara can round it up. The Gemara, even the Mishnayos round it up. So first, you have to remove for the 100 the 11, the 11.11. Now, if you will also remove, like we're saying, so you took from the 200 basket, you are misaken for basket of 100. But now, if you want to keep on removing it from that basket, im l'shem mosayim hunaitel, that's what it means. If you are continuing, you want to rectify that, you don't have to rectify 200 because you already separated from the 200 11.11. That's done. So you only have to deal with, like we mentioned, 188.90. 10% is 1889. Amachaya. Add it to the 11.11. So the sum total is 30. So it becomes simple. If I know once I'm connecting them together, don't get nervous that the first step from without is more than what you think, which is what we learned in Daf Ayin Aleph. That we learned Daf Yud Beis. True, but it's going to balance itself out perfect with that diminished amount. So what's going to be the total? Shloishim Te'enim. Another example. What happens? Bezu Meya, Bezu Elef. We want to make a point. Now let's do this by heart, guys. If you have Bezu Meya and Bezu Elef, based on what we are saying, we're saying it's just a simple Yesod. Simcha, what's the total here? 1,000.
111.11.
So if I would have mixed it all together, if I have 1,100, then I would have to give 110. One basket only has 100. Is if I'm going to be separating it from the 100 basket, I don't have enough. I'll have to go over to the other basket. That's what the Gemara is going to say. That bezu meya bezu elef. Turning to Daf Ein Gimel Amud Beis. So im l'shei meya hu noitel. Now, if I'm going in the direction, Simcha, of taking it out of the 1,000 basket, so let's do the same numbers. So the end will be, it's simple. What do I have to remove from the 1,000 basket per 100, Simcha? 11. 11 cases. So noitel achas esrei. Now, the Gemara doesn't even add the remaining. Here, it's not an addition. The words are not so consistent if the Gersois are correct. In other words, if you're going to remove it from the 1,000 basket, perfect. You remove 11.11. Minus that 11 from the 1,000 basket, now go 10%. The end will be, you're going to have exactly 110. But what happens if you're trying to remove it from the little basket? That's the if. Here it's if. Im l'shem elef u'noitel. But if you want to remove from the 100 basket for both, it's not going to work. You won't have enough. Afilu noitel kula eino mashlim, because you need to remove 110. No, the point is, guys, that's the big point, that the total meiser for both baskets, even though you began by removing it from without, is exactly the number you would have if you would have removed it normala hate, each one from within. That's the point. Okay. Now, 1 second. Now let's add something that we didn't have yet. Atkan, you see, in our Mishnah, again, I'm just going back to our Mishnah, we also set a certain premise. The premise of the way we learned our Mishnah is that even though the Mishnah we're going, it's Tevel. Number one, why don't we speak about Truma Gedoyla? Because there's a rule that a person is not allowed to move the produce off the granary without removing Truma Gedoyla. Truma Gedoyla de facto sometimes was removed earlier on. So the Truma Gedoyla was dealt with. Another thing we said is that really, because when we began the Sugi, when we began the Braisa was speaking about Meiser Mina Meiser. What about Meiser Ishay? That the Meiser Ishay itself, you don't even have to give to the Levi. he owes its value. You can give him the money. What you really, really have to separate, there's no way around it, is the Trumas Meiser. But all that we have been talking about was Meiser Rishon and subsequently Trumas Meiser. We never spoke about Meiser Sheni. Now we're going to add Meiser Sheni to the equation. And there'll be a chap over here, big chap. Okay, so let's go. Says the Braisa, Mi sheyesh li kalkala, v'umabakesh la'asra. Here, la'asra means he wants to really resolve it all. Sai, Meiser Rishon, and Meiser Sheni. So, guys, this is all from within. Let me do this by heart, and you'll see what the Gemara is chapping over here. When you remove from a basket of 100 simcha that has 100 figs, Meiser Rishon will be how much? From within. 10. How many figs do you have left? How much will be Meiser Sheni? Not another 10. Let's begin with that. Not another 10. You only have to give 10% from what remained. It's amazing. The Meiser Rishon that the Levi gets doesn't have to have Meiser Sheni removed from it.
9.
Just like, that's the rule. Just like the Truma Gedoyla that the Kohen gets doesn't need to have Meiser Rishon removed from it. Just like the Bikurim that the Kohanim get doesn't even need Truma Gedoyla removed from it. Remember that. It's when you remove the Meiser Rishon, the Meiser Rishon doesn't need a tikkun with Meiser Sheni. What has to be Meiser Sheni? That which is Mesukin from Meiser Rishon. How much do you have left? 90. How much is 10% of 90? 9. What's the total you're going to give? 19.
90.
So remember, in other words, Meiser Rishon and Meiser Sheni is not 20%. We would say 19%. The Gemara has another way to formulate it. And the Gemara is going to challenge, why are you making things complicated? And the Gemara is going to have a very deep answer. So what's the total that you take to be Ma'aser HaKalkala of 100 from within? Look at the words of the Braisa. Noitel, you take 2/9 and 1/9 of 1/9. Ha. Now, let me tell you like this. Let me go normal, the way we would think normal, and the way the Chazal are going from the opposite direction. If you were to remove, Yakir, which you have to 19 total from 100, how much do you have left? No, 81. Thank you. Coffee. How much is 1/9 of 81? That's the 9th. 9th, not from the 100. How much is 1/9 of 81? 9. 9 times 9 is 81. 2/9 is how much? Is 18.
18.
Wait, the Braisa wants to tell you you'll have to remove 19. Instead of saying remove 19, that's the way it talks. You remove 2/9, but just remember, the 2/9 is not from the total. It's the ratio from that which you'll remain mesukin to what you're removing. How much is 19 from 81? It's 2/9, and every 9th of 81 is 9. Yakeda has his eyes open. 2/9 is 18. Okay, and how much is 1? The other one is called a 9th of a 9th. Of course, a 9th of a 9th is what's a 9th of a 9th.
Where does that come from? 9th of the 9th.
A 9th of a 9th.
Where does that come from and what represent?
Yakir, if from 81, a 9th of 81 is how much? Answer.
9.
Where are you? 9. Put your thing on. How much is 1 from 9?
1/9.
How much is what?
1 from 9.
Yeah.
It's called the 9th of the 9th.
1 over 9.
Yeah.
Why would you talk straight? Let's talk like that. So they're not going to say, we would say 19%. Forget about that. Just say 19 from 100. They're not going to say that. They're not looking at the total. They're looking at what does the percent of both meisters represent from that which is becoming mesukin, 2/9 and a 9th of a 9th. Okay, now you see what they mean. They mean 19. Okay,
they're coming up with the formula. That's what they're doing, right?
Wait. This formula is going to be very important in a moment. But the Gemara already takes it too much. Come on. Why are you making, just say 19? Oh. The Chachamim speak in riddles. You want the Chachamim to speak 19. They want to speak deep. I want to say there's many levels of understanding what the Gemara means with deep. One thing, I know we shared this every now and then. This is from the Rebbe's father, which is mamash amazing. When it comes to God's holy Shemos, we have Shem, Ban, Ma, Sag, and Ab. Really, it's all based on Yud Kei Vav Kei. There are different ways of spelling out the letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei, even though people say, Yud Kei Vav Kei is 26. Yeah, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Yud is 10, and a Hey is 5, etc., 26. But if you spell out each letter, you can spell the letter Yud, Yud Vav Dalet. You can spell the letter Yud, Yud Dalet. You can spell Hey, Hey Aleph. You can spell Hey, Hey, Hey. Vav can be Vav Aleph Vav or just Vav Vav. So if you spell out Hashem's holy name, what will be the sum total number? You have different options. Either it's going to be Ban, Ma, which is 52, 45, 63, and 72. Really, it also means something else, that there are certain letters that when you put them together as a triplet, they have in them Kedusha, Shemois HaKadoshim. So you have the ultimate holiest name of Hashem it's a total of 72 letters. And we already had that. It's taken, okay. The Rebbe's father asks a simple question, that when we are giving a number using letters, Ab, what number did you put first? The bigger number or the smaller number? 72. Ayin is 70, base is 2. When you said Sag, what number came first? The bigger number, the smaller number. Ma, what came first? The bigger, and this, what about Ban? To be consistent, we should have said Nab, the bigger and the small. So why do we do Ban? So the Rebbe's father says, Gavaldi, that in Kabbalah, even though when we put the letters to numbers, one were to ask, what's the biggest number in the Aleph base? You would say, Taf is 400. It's not true. Al Pi Kabbalah, we keep on going. We go until 1,000. The large Aleph is 1,000. But how do we get from 400 to 1,000? So the way it works is that we have final letters. What's the first final letter? A line Chaf. A Chaf Sofit for Yakir. Now, if we ended off, Chaf is 400. So the Chaf Sofit is 500. The Mem Sofit is 600. The Nun Sofit is 700. The Pei Sofit is 800. And the Lange Tzadik is 900. Apikabol. So the Lange Nun is 700. Says the Rebbe's father that 9 is the number of truth. Why is 9 the number of truth? Because truth never changes. No matter how far you go off the 9, you always end up with 9. 9 times 2 is 18. How much is 1 and 8? 9. 9 times 3 is 27. How much is 2 and 7? 9. 9 times any number. If you plus the n, you'll always end up with 9. Therefore, since 9 is the number of emes, that in the Shemus HaKadoshim, how much is 72? How much is 7 and 2, Simcha? 9. How much is 63? 6 and 3, 9. How much is Ma? 45, 9. Comes to Ban, that Rebbe's father says, L'choira, 5 and 2 is how much? 7. Where's the 9? Stimmt nicht. The only way to solve it is by not saying Nab, saying Ban. When you do Ban, you make the Nun into a Yakir, a Nun Sofit. A Nun Sofit is 700. 7 and 2 is 9. I just want to say that there's something magical about 9. Maybe one of the things the Gemara is being maram is, so they don't say 19. They say 2 9ths and a 9th of a 9th. They're sticking to the 9. Because Maisris has to do with emes somehow. You're making things the way they should be. Perhaps. Okay, I'm sure there's a lot more to that, but now we have a formula. Now let's use the formula. Now we're going to learn the last shtickle. Says the Gemara.
Amazing. This is truly amazing.
Thank you. We're not done yet. Now, we're going to apply this if you remove the maestras from without. Because what we accomplished today, when I remove it from without. So if I want to be Mesakin 100 figs from another, how many do I have to take from my sedition, Simcha?
Out of 111.
11.11. But let's use this formula. How much is 100 divided by 9? Let's go with ninths now. How much is 100 divided by 9? 1.11. How much is 2 ninths, therefore? 22.22. So if I want to follow the formula, because don't forget that from within, see, that's the beauty. From within, when we said 2 ninths and a ninth of a ninth, it's not from 100 then. It's from 81. It's from 81. Because we made the Braisa, made the Cheshvan, made the formula, which will allow you to use exactly the same formula from within or from without. We already accomplished that. That's another emes. Because when you say, from 100, I'm taking off 10%, you take off 10. But if I'm doing it from without, I have to take off 11.11. It's not the same. If I'm giving the percent of what will remain mesukin from within, then within and without is the same. It's very good. In other words, if I'm looking at a basket of 100 and I'm making a formula not based from the 100, 2 ninths is not from 100. It's from what will remain mesukin. So I'm already going from without. Once I know the end will be, I'll end up with 81. So I'm taking from without 2 ninths and a ninth. And that will be both the Ma'aseh Rishon and the Ma'aseh Sheni. So let's apply this now, Ma'aseh Rishon, Ma'aseh Sheni from without. You're going to say now, this is so important. You're going to say that it's going to be 22.22. That's what you would think. Why am I saying that? It's not going to be.
111.
Yeah. But that's only 2 ninths. Now, how much is a ninth of a ninth? Let's read it inside. I'll call to Eina v'te'ena. Same thing. Shnei teshuyim v'teshua shel teisha. What will be the total? So what's the number from without for 100? Sheheim. The total will be esrim b'shalish te'enim, 23 figs, and arba'a v'teshua shel teshua, and 4 ninths of a fig, and a ninth of a fig. Okay. A ninth of a ninth. A ninth of a ninth. The total we're coming to over here, Chevra, is 23.45.
Why not just the 11.1?
No, because that's only a ninth. You have to add, because it's not just 2 ninths. A ninth is 11.11. 2 ninths is 22.22. Right. But that's not the formula. The formula is 2 ninths and a ninth of a ninth. 2 ninths and a ninth of a ninth. 2 ninths would have been 18. We needed to get to 19. When you add the ninth of a ninth on the 22.22, you have 23.45. Now the question is, why would that make sense? What's my problem with it? I'm removing, why not Ma'aseh Rishon, Ma'aseh Sheni? Each one I need to remove 11.11. Like, tell you the answer. So the Marafulda says, I'll tell you why this formula is the emes. Listen to one difference between what we said in the previous Braisa and in this Braisa. When I have a basket of 100 figs and I remove 10, all of the remainder has no Ma'aseh Rishon issue. I'm going to end up removing another 9 from Ma'aseh Sheni before we learn today's Gemara. That 9 that I removed from Ma'aseh Sheni already is Mesukin la Ma'aseh Rishon. It needs to be, and it was. When I am removing everything from without, the other 11.11 that I'm removing from without, which is Tevel, also has to have Ma'aseh Rishon removed from it. That's why 22.22 would not be enough. That will be the one difference between if I'm removing it from the same or if I'm removing it from outside. When I'm removing it from inside, forget about the formula that we said. We said the total is going to be 19. But when I remove 10 first, everything else was already, the Ma'aser addition was dealt with already. Don't forget, Ma'aser Sheni has to have Ma'aser addition removed from it. And it had Ma'aser addition removed from it. Because before you remove the Ma'aser Sheni, you remove Ma'aser addition from all of it. Masha'enk, and when you are taking everything from another place, so when you take 11.11 for Ma'aser addition, you're taking the new 11.11 from Ma'aser Sheni, you have to really add to that. In order for it, because if not, there's going to be lacking the Ma'aser addition removed from it. That's what the last manifold of the Amid says, and let's go.